I won't buy a box today, okay? Welcome back to a new Hints and Theories video. I hope you didn't buy a box and are still here with me today. My name is Julia and together we try to figure out who the mole is. Yeah, Nabil isn't part of the game anymore. He saw a red screen and of course we will talk about that special elimination in a minute. First of all, make sure to check out my social media accounts to not miss any further hints and theories. Today I want to start with a hint that is still connected to last week's episode, but I thought it is such a nice hint that I still want to share it with you. It has to do with the city Leeuwarden and with Anke. The city Leeuwarden is located in the Netherlands, in the region Friesland, and Anke is the only one who comes out of that region. But if we have a closer look at, well, the special things to see in Leeuwarden, then we get to know that there is like a train station, probably a main station, and in front of that building there are two sculptures. And those sculptures are giant heads, and the faces of those heads face each other. As far as I know, with closed eyes, but they face each other. And if you think about last week's episode and of, well, one of Katie's tasks, then one task was to go to the entrance hall and to turn those little statues, those little sculptures of the, well, brother and sister, I think was it, to face each other. And that of course reminds a lot of the sculptures in front of the train station in Leeuwarden. Now if you say, okay, Anke's just out of the region and not out of Leeuwarden, well that's true, but there's another hint that connects Anke with the train station. If you have a look at the portrait in last week's episode, then Anke's portrait is linked to the train station. First of all, she wears like a suit on that portrait, and if you have a look at that color, then there's written underground there. And one more thing that you need to know about that is that all of these portraits are originally stock photos. And well, the Widm team edited those photos to make them usable for that task. And the original stock photo doesn't have a train station in the background, but Anke's portrait does have a train station in the background. So she's definitely linked to that one, and of course the candidates also figured it out correctly. But it also links her again to a train station, and in combination with the sculptures and Leeuwarden being a city in Friesland, I just thought it was a really nice hint. Now let's jump to this week's episode. Let me know what you thought about that episode, because it was a bit different than usually. We didn't have like 2 or 3 assignments. No, there was only like one big task in the whole episode that was called Stoelendans, and that one consisted of 3 little games and of course the boxes. And about the games first. I personally thought they were a bit boring. That probably does sound a bit harsh, but to be honest, I just did expect more when I heard they were going on a road trip. Let me know what you thought about those games. And for example, like in game 1, when they had to walk on those eggs and then in the end it didn't even matter if the eggs broke or not. Not so sure what to think about that. There's also why I just want to add to that games that Anke was very passive. She was staying a lot in the background and, well, not doing too much. So that is of course also a strategy for a mole, to just be like in the background and let the others do the work. But let's talk about the most important thing, and that of course are boxes. And there are several things we need to talk about. The first thing is that the mole probably wouldn't want to be the first one to buy a box. Why is that so? Well, the mole of course knows that the boxes are linked to a special elimination. And that elimination, of course, only chooses the one who goes home between the group of people who bought the box. Now, imagine if the mole is the only one to buy a box, then the mole would actually need to see a red screen and go home because he's the only person participating in the elimination. And as we know that doesn't work, well, as the mole can't see a red screen and can't go home, then of course the mole would need to see a green screen, the rules would need to be changed, and all of that wouldn't just work out as the production team would like it to work out. So for the mole, it would be clever not to be the first one to buy a box. And that of course leads us to the option to say that those people who bought the boxes first are candidates. And that would be Ranomi and Soy. So it could actually be an anti-mole hint to those two. Another interesting thing was the behavior of Anke and of Daniel. Anke at first didn't want to buy a box at all, and then when they had the second chance to buy a box, she suddenly wanted one. And Daniel is like the complete opposite of that. First of all, he did want a box and then not at all. Both are of course also probably mole behaviors, like Anke wanting to open up a discussion with Daniel and keep the game going, and definitely want to make sure to get those 500 euros out of the pot. And in Daniel's case, of course, if he is the mole, it would be a good option to encourage the others to buy a box, first Soy, and then play the game with him and let him win first 500 euros out of the pot. And then in the second round being like, okay, I already wanted one, and now that Anke changes her mind, just go along with that, let her buy the box so that the mole isn't part of the elimination. Which leads me to Jurre's behavior, which was my personal, favorite behavior if he is the mole. Because Jurre said in both cases that he would take a step back and let the others buy the boxes. Though in the first round he did motivate Ranomi a lot to buy a box. Like, oh no, you didn't get a chance to have anything last week. You can buy a box. You go first this time. And I will shortly explain why this would be my favorite mole behavior. The thing is, as I said, the mole knows that there will be a special elimination at the end of this episode. And he of course also knows that there will be only 4 people max participating in that elimination. That is of course limited due to, how the task is designed. So max 4 people. And if the mole is one of those 4 people, then that would, reduce the test decision, like who gets the red screen, to not 4 but to only 3 people. Simply because the mole never gets a red screen and of course won't go home. And I just think it would be fairer if the mole wasn't a part of those 4. And this is why, if Jurre is the mole, I think he did act great in that task. If he is the mole. But, and that is a big but, Wie is the Mole isn't always fair. And you probably remember last year when there was a similar situation, not identical but similar, and I did argue back then that I would have liked the mole to stay out of that game back then, simply because it would have been fairer to the candidates, because there were some things you could change about the test as well and get extra time if you were the last one to solve the game and to arrive at the test and all of that. And that simply led me to the fact to say, I would have liked the mole to stay out of that. Yeah, turns out he didn't. So in the end, it's of course still an option that one of the 4 people in this episode's test, in this episode's elimination, is the mole, so that in the end it was an elimination not between 4 but only between 3 people. It's of course an option, just not my favorite one, to be honest. Now, one more hint for all of you who are fans of those signing hints, let's call them like that, when they sign an M or other well, mole symbols. Wie is de mol hints.nl did spot Daniel do that twice, and he uploaded it on Instagram, and I will show you the photo here now. So Daniel like signed the word mole 2 times. Yeah, if you've checked out my Instagram account, then you know that there are several of those hints already in this season. It's a thing the candidates like to do, it's a thing the Widm community likes to spot. Not sure if we should interpret too much into that, but yeah, there are people out there who liked it a lot, so there you go. And talking about Daniel, there was one very obvious hint, actually about Anke, but connected with Daniel in this episode, and I'm sure a lot of you spotted that one as well. It's when the group of Soy, Daniel and Anke clinked glasses. Then Soy says cheers, Daniel says to the mole, and Anke says thanks. So that of course could be a very obvious hint to Anke as the mole. And that's of course why it is discussed a lot today. Last but not least, let's talk about Soy and Nabil one more time. Soy and Nabil were the ones with an important, well, role last week, deciding who gets which amount of money or a joker, and in which envelope and all of that, you remember it. And now those two were left in the elimination. And Soy said that he went fully on Nabil, which is why he thought he would leave as soon as those two were left over. And in the end it wasn't him, but it was Nabil who went home. And that of course leads to a lot of discussion, because why is Soy still in the game if he went fully on Nabil and Nabil is obviously now not the mole? That of course could be because Soy is the mole. And yeah, he did have an important role last week, but he also wasn't very active in that one. And let's also think about 2 weeks ago when we talked about who got to see that red screen and still is part of the game. And you probably saw my video back then and remember that I said I think it was Soy because of his, well, reaction and the impression he made. But there are also people out there who thought it was Nabil. And yeah, probably those people are correct, and then it would be fair now that Nabil is now the next one to leave the game, now that Anke had to leave for him, probably. But it could of course still be that Soy or Daniel saw that red screen back then. Just wanted to let you know that there are also people who think it was Nabil, and that this whole situation now could mean that Soy is the mole. One more thing before I end this video. During the week I asked you who your main suspect is, who your mole is at the moment, because we were halfway through the season already and I just wanted to see who the main mole is, the main suspect at the moment. I asked that on YouTube, Instagram and in our Facebook group, and here are the results of that. Now let me know if your main suspect changed after seeing episode number 6 and after hearing all of the hints and theories, and of course also tell me what you think about those hints and theories, about the episode in general, and if you've spotted anything suspicious that I didn't mention here. Let me know in the comments below, and also make sure to subscribe to this account so that we will see each other back next week. And well, check out Instagram, TikTok, and you can of course still join our Facebook group as well. I'm looking forward to reading your comments and to seeing your reactions to all of that, and I'm also looking forward to seeing you back next week. Until then, bye!